Cobra Kai is arguably one of the best reboots that has ever been made, and one of the reasons is that they managed to get so many of the original actors to come aboard the project. Because, let's be honest, Cobra Kai wouldn't have been half as good without Ralph Macchio. So we thought it would be fun to take a look at 10 secrets even fans didn't know about Ralph Macchio. Let's go. Let's start with Ralph Macchio is a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. At the end of the day, even our biggest idols are just human as well, and Ralph Macchio is no exception. When Bruce Springsteen was still very big, Macchio was still young, and the music we listen to in our younger years always sticks with us, whether we like it or not, which is why it shouldn't come as a big surprise that Macchio is actually a super fan of Bruce Springsteen. It's always fun to get a glimpse of what it is that makes our idols go starstruck, if only because it makes us feel a little closer to them, and it also gives us the opportunity to give a listen to what they listen to in their free time, or watch a movie that we know they've seen and loved as well. Next up, Ralph Macchio appreciates how Cobra Kai explored areas that weren't shown in the original Karate Kid. There's one big difference between Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid that Ralph Macchio is actually a really big fan of, and that's how in the series we get to see what it is that makes William Zabka's Johnny Lawrence tick. Even though there are countless theories out there about why Johnny behaved the way he did in the Karate Kid, in the movie he will always be the ultimate bad guy. But thanks to Cobra Kai, we now know what it was that made him into the person we got to know all those years ago. His life was never easy, which is never an excuse, but there was obviously much more to his story than we were shown in the Karate Kid, and it's great that he's been given a chance to claim some of his life back in Cobra Kai. Following, Ralph Macchio married his high school sweetheart. Ralph Macchio has been married to his wife Phyllis Fierro since 1987. The first time they met was in the basement of Macchio's grandmother during the birthday of his cousin, when he was just 15. Macchio opened up about how he met his wife with Drew Barrymore on her talk show and told her that it was infatuation and love at first sight. Fierro was a friend of his cousin's, and they spent the evening smiling and talking, and they even danced a little. Macchio and Fierro married less than a year after the Karate Kid 2 premiered, and they now have 2 children together, Julia Macchio and Daniel Macchio. So what's their secret? It's the belief through the easy times, through the tough times, whatever we encounter, that we are meant to be together. Next, Ralph Macchio named his son after his Karate Kid character. Given how important Daniel LaRusso from the Karate Kid became soon after it was released, it's no wonder that the man who brought him to life has had a very special relationship with the character since the very beginning. Through the years, LaRusso has always remained an important character in the life of Macchio, and on the 30th anniversary of the movie, Macchio took to Twitter to personally thank his character for enhancing his life, and that of many others. But the biggest compliment Macchio could have given LaRusso was naming his son after his on-screen character, which is exactly what he did. Ralph Macchio got a role in the adaptation of the first book he read just for fun, The Outsiders, which is a rather controversial novel by S.E. Hilton, and it was also the first book Ralph Macchio decided to read without a teacher or a parent asking him to. So when he got word of the fact that Francis Ford Coppola was making an adaptation of The Outsiders, he wanted in. He was especially keen to get the role of Johnny Cade, probably because he was always kind of the smallest of any group, and the same went for Johnny. He landed the role and ended up sharing the screen with one of the strongest young ensembles of the time, including Patrick Swayze, Matt Dillon, Rob Lowe, and Tom Cruise. To prepare for the role, Macchio spent the night outside underneath some newspapers, just like his character, because the director had told him he was too clean for the role. Hold up, you're going to miss out on the best part. Next, we'll tell you why Ralph Macchio's early dancing lessons worked out great later in life, what his secret to his young young look is, how long it took to prepare for his role on The Karate Kid, and much more. We're sure you don't want to miss out on that, so let's keep going. First up, Ralph Macchio competed on Dancing with the Stars in 2005. Sometimes you hear the story of a celebrity's life, and you can't help but think they were meant to be famous. The same goes for Ralph Macchio, who started tap dancing at the ripe age of 3, and he was discovered at 16 during a dance recital. All that dancing would come in very handy later in life, and he was invited to join Dancing with the Stars. Macchio and his partner, Karina Smirnoff, were definitely a fan favorite couple, and Macchio had really hoped to at least make it to the finals. Sadly, he was eliminated just before, in the semi-finals, ending up in the 4th place. Following, Ralph Macchio owns a very special vintage car. If Ralph Macchio ever has the desire to be transported back to the most special days of his career, that is, his time on The Karate Kid, all he has to do is pay a little visit to his storage unit, where he has stored his 1947 Ford convertible. You heard that right. Macchio is the owner of one of the most famous cars in the world. It's the car that Mr. Miyagi, who is portrayed by Pat Morita, gave to his character Daniel LaRusso in the movie. The one from the famous wax on, wax off scene. Columbia Pictures, the studio behind The Karate Kid, gifted the car to Macchio when The Karate Kid 3 was released. How terribly nice of them! And now, young Ralph Macchio trained for 5 weeks to prepare for his role on The Karate Kid. Daniel LaRusso, the character portrayed by Ralph Macchio, decides to take a crash course in karate after he gets beaten up after school. But did young Ralph have any idea what he was doing when he auditioned for the role? "I faked it kind of well. I just did what was necessary," he told Lita Pal Drake at the time. As far as defense, "I still run to the next street corner," which just goes to show how good of an actor Macchio is, because he ended up getting the role. While he had competition from the likes of Robert Downey Jr., Charlie Sheen, and Nicolas Cage, Macchio trained for 5 weeks to get ready for his role, during which time he also attended various karate tournaments in Los Angeles to get a first-hand look at what the martial art looks like in real life. Next up, Ralph Macchio won the gene lottery, making him look much younger than he really is. When Ralph Macchio portrayed the 17-year-old Daniel LaRusso, Macchio was already 24 years old. Especially in the earlier days of his career, many people would ask him whether it sometimes bothered him that he looked so much younger than he really was. But Macchio was always aware of the fact that appearing younger is actually priceless in the industry that he works in, and that particular trait of his is actually a real blessing. But as Macchio has grown older, he has turned out to be one of those people who doesn't appear to be aging that much at all. So instead of asking him whether it bothers him, these days, people mainly want to know what his secret is. Though the actor leads an active life and follows a healthy diet, he mainly blames his parents, who both look much younger than their age as well. Following, Ralph Macchio declined to participate in a Karate Kid reboot for years. It's been decades since the original Karate Kid first premiered, and in all of those years, Ralph Macchio says that there was maybe one day during which the movie wasn't mentioned to him. "It might have been a day when I was sick and stayed in my room all day," he told The Guardian. And if that's the case, you can only imagine how many times he's been asked when he would be doing a reboot of the movie that ended up shaping pretty much his entire life. But both William Zabka, who plays the bane of Daniel LaRusso, Johnny Lawrence, said no to anyone who had convinced themselves they had a good idea for years, until the creators of Cobra Kai approached them. And that's it for now. Which one of these facts is your favorite? Let us know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching.